that's the one thing I took away from this weekend was, not only my father Ken, but you as a mentor to me, as a path to follow, to have a family so loving of me that there would be 30 people crowded around me if I was in pain. That's the one thing that I got away, is that the Father God works in mysterious ways, and he puts people in your life that will lead you in the right direction. And
this youth version of Walk to Emmaus that you mentioned is really interesting, because when I went on Walk to Emmaus, I already said I was like 30 years old, and there was a man there who was 60 years old. And I remember him saying at the time, he said, "Boy, I wish I would have had this when I was 30." And I was 30, and I was thinking to myself, gosh, I wish I would have had this when I was 15. And Chrysalis is a result of doing just that. It makes that program offering available to young people. And just a couple of words of pragmatism. What actually occurs on the walk? It's 3 days, 72 hours. There's a series of 15 talks covering all aspects of Christian life.
They're only about 20 minutes each, so it's not like
exactly.
It's not like Pastor John's sermons.
Yeah. Some of them were actually interesting.
Thanks for that, Ken, for getting me back on.
So it's a series of 15 talks. So it ends up being sort of a short course in Christianity. Everything you ever want to know about Christianity, kind of, you're going to have at least answered or start the questions raised there. So you get to talk about those talks with people sitting with you at a common table. So you get to meet those people at the table and things like that. Judy, you had some interesting, before we met, you had some interesting comments about what sort of happened in your life after Walk to Emmaus.
Well, I learned that my church was not an island. I took my Walk to Emmaus in 1990 in Fresno. So I moved to Southern California, didn't know anybody. Orange County Emmaus was just starting, so I worked the very first weekend. And from there, it was a spider effect of people, friends, how I ended up at Light of the Canyon, where I met Doug. So it's kind of going back to your question about how does it affect your Light of the Canyon. I think it opens my eyes to our particular congregation. We have people coming in from all different backgrounds and different church experiences from the people that I met from Walk to Emmaus. When Doug and I got married, we got married in a church in Tustin in Aldersgate because we had the portables. But we got that church through somebody that we knew from Walk to Emmaus. So we were treated as family instead of outside people. The two soloists at our wedding were friends from Walk to Emmaus. Mike and Nancy and some other people from Walk to Emmaus helped serve communion. For our reception, since we were on a real tight shoestring, we were the band with other Walk to Emmaus people, and we sang Walk to Emmaus songs at the reception. So we sang praise songs. That was the reception. Because we met Greg at Walk to Emmaus, he sort of was instrumental in getting us to know each other because he invited Doug to the band. So if I don't blame somebody, but he invited Doug because they had met at Walk to Emmaus to come and be in the praise band. And so that's how we actually got to know each other, even though we had met at a Walk to Emmaus. So when I'm saying it takes me out of our church is not the island. I mean, I have so many people that I can call on in times of hard times or whatever, help us move, which we have done. And there is a group of women that I still group with. We try to group twice a month, and they're all people from Walk to Emmaus. And it's a support system, and we can email each other even if we don't see each other. And it's, I think besides the spiritual thing, I think the Walk to Emmaus, because I was faithful to the Walk to Emmaus and being involved in my church, kind of made my life explode, not only in its spiritual sense, but just in getting married, having children, and that thing.
Thanks. Aaron, did you attend both Chrysalis and Walk to Emmaus? Walk to Emmaus or Chrysalis? Walk to Emmaus. Okay. Ken, were you going to say something?
I was just going to answer the last question you asked too, because what I wanted to say.
I forgot what that was. So what was the question?
How did it affect my relationship with this church? Is that okay?
Sure.
Thank you. Because I'm going to forget what I was going to say.
I've never been in control anyway, so.
Right.
Completely unrehearsed.
When I went to the Walk to Emmaus, Doug and Judy sponsored us, and that's kind of how it works. To go to the Walk to Emmaus, you're sponsored by somebody else that's already gone, and they are kind of your sponsors and your liaisons to get you there through the weekend. When I went, we'd been going to church for years, but I wasn't completely comfortable because I looked around me and I felt like a lot of people were way ahead of me in their Christian walks. And I've told this story before. I maybe even told it in this setting, but I know there are a lot of people here that haven't heard me say this, so I'll say it again, that there was a time that I felt like there were two types of Christians. I got to sit up straight, shouldn't I? Sorry. I thought there were two types of Christians. I thought there were the nearly perfect Christians, like Greg Hamill, that I could never aspire to be because I hadn't read enough, I hadn't studied enough, I wasn't holy enough, I wasn't spiritual enough, I sinned too much. I couldn't be that kind of person. And so I wasn't even, I couldn't even aspire to that. And I thought there was another kind of Christian, and that was the kind of Christian that pretended they were a Christian, but secretly they did all those things, and they knew they were doing those things, but they were putting on a face for everybody. And the hypocrites. And I found out that there are some in each group, but I found out both of those groups are much smaller than I thought they were. There aren't very many nearly perfect Christians. Even Greg Hamill's not nearly as perfect as I thought he was. But there are some nearly perfect, and maybe he's one of those that fits in that group. And there are some hypocrites. But I found out at Emmaus that there's a much larger group, and the vast majority of Christians are people that struggle just like I do, that sin just like I do, that don't study enough just like I don't, that don't work hard enough for the church just like I don't. And I found out that people are at all different places on the road, and suddenly through that weekend I became comfortable with where I was at. It was okay, I was accepted. Where I was at on the road was accepted. I was actually ahead of some people. I was way behind other people, but everybody was okay with where I was at. And for the first time, I felt comfortable in my own Christian skin and felt like it was okay to be where I was at. And I didn't have to be embarrassed that I hadn't read the Bible. Now, since then, I have. We got involved in a Disciple One Bible study, and we're now doing another study with Mike, which we're going to go through the whole Bible in a year. I'll tell you what, guys, I wouldn't have done it without Emmaus. And probably, if somebody had told me before Emmaus that I might do that afterwards, I might not have wanted to go. Because I don't want to study the Bible for a year, but it does give you that kind of desire. And I'm telling you, if there's anybody sitting out there right now that's saying, I don't want to study that much, I was that way too. But there's something about this weekend that really changed my perspective on all of that, and it gave me the desire. It gave me the desire.
Sean Williams, I see you nodding your head up and down.
Nancy mentioned, the transforming. We're going to get to the question later. Knowing, where I was prior to going to Walk Emmaus, I grew up going to church, a Methodist church. In my teen years and young adult years, got away from the church. And then when Maureen and I got married and we started having kids, we thought, we need to get back to the church life for our kids. And it really wasn't much for me. When I came, it was more for the kids. When I came here to Light of the Canyon, I started, feeling more, and I really had a desire to get closer to God, closer to the church. And I got to a point where I wanted it, but I didn't know how to get there. And just prior to Emmaus, I was kind of just going through the motions. We would come to church every Sunday like I was supposed to, and I would attend the Bible study every once in a while, but I didn't feel like I was making that progression. And then Ken and Nancy Lay asked Maureen and I if we would go. They were going to sponsor us, and I had absolutely no desire to go. But how can you tell Ken no? Look at it, and he'll hound you. I'm telling you. They asked us once, and there's no way I could fit this in my life, and I fit a business trip in to get out of the first one, and then he came to us again and said, hey, there's another weekend coming up, you want to go? And all the way up into the point where he came to pick me up to drive me to the weekend, I'm sitting at my house pacing, going, okay, how can I get out of this without insulting him? I can't. I have coaching. I got all this stuff with work, and there's just too much going on in my life. I can't afford to take 3 days and go away from it. And after the weekend, I feel like I had reached a point where I wasn't going to go any further, and that weekend kind of opened it up. And it wasn't a vision or the old trumpets, or it wasn't an immediate change, but the person who went to Emmaus and the person